Yeah, guys. So my name is Abraham. Like he mentioned, I work for Weights and Biases. I got some of the weight, but none of the bias. So happy to be here, showing you guys some of our latest toolkits that we're developing in order to help software developers adopt these foundational model builders models in order to enhance the business experience that end users have. So here at Weights and Biases, we've been working with all these foundational model builders and all these other companies, and really seeing that once they're trying to start applying these generative AI applications, it's really easy to get into the POC stage, but really hard to get into production because we want to make sure that we're getting the ROI that is needed in order to justify the spend for them. We see two main barriers to get there. One of them is optimizing the actual GenAI application is actually really hard because they're non-deterministic by nature. Even if you have your temperature set to 0, you can never really assure yourself around how they will answer against a query that's coming from the real world, whether that is an end user or if that is an end system now with the whole rise of agentic and tool using flows, right? So optimization is really, really hard. But even after that, evaluating the models that you're deploying into production or into beta stage, it's actually really hard to evaluate them and understand how much you have improved from your previous iteration, right? Like you could have a version 1 of your RAG application that is doing pretty well, but you wouldn't really necessarily take it into production and call it, very user-friendly. But whenever you release following versions, you're not really sure yourself how much it has improved around the metrics that matter for the business. So here at Weights and Biases, we've been doing this for a long time. Our model suite to train machine learning models is really popular. And now we're releasing a new suite of tools. These have been released from our Fully Connected conference about 4 months ago. This suite is called Weave. And Weave really has two foundational aspects to the tooling. There's tracing of the application, a thoughtful way of looking into your generative AI applications in order to understand what is actually happening during the interaction. And then there's also the evaluations component. And these are offline evaluations to really understand, one, how your application is performing live as time goes by, but also two, to ensure that whenever you actually deploy a new improvement, you're actually improving in the things that you care about. Like we said, we have really cool customers all over the world that trust us, and we're hearing their feedback and our end user feedback around how to best develop these generative AI-based applications. So here you can see a regular flow around how an inference-based application works, right? Like you kind of have two sides of the equation. There is the interaction with the end user or system, and then there's the interaction with your systems that actually power up the application, whether that's RAG, agents, or whatever it is. Getting feedback from those users is actually really freaking easy, right? Like you can just put like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then like they'll let you know if you did good or not, and then bring it back, and then maybe you can store it in, I don't know, the MySQL database, Postgres database, right? It doesn't matter. It's actually really easy to do this already. It's a problem that's pretty solved. What's actually pretty hard is to be able to take that data and bring it back into either fine-tuning your base model or improving your system prompt in order for it to do better in the future, right? That's a hard problem that there's still a lot of unanswered questions to be made available for us here. So how does Weave from Weights and Biases help here? We talked about tracing and we talked about evaluations. We ensure that you have that live view of what's happening in your application, and we also help you evaluate the different iterations that you've gone through in order to understand how much improvement you've gotten against your KPIs. So in an architecture where you are trying to improve on the system that you put into a beta stage or a demo stage or in production, you normally will have this side of the equation where you will collect the data, right? So you collect the traces that we've been talking about. You store them, whether that is within your own storage or with us at Weights and Biases through our native tracing. And then you will need to put them through evaluations in order to understand, hey, live right now, how am I doing? Because understanding how your model is doing right now, it's very important. Given that the world changes, our models cannot stay static. They need to get better as the world changes. They need to obtain more relevant context as the world changes. So you want to be doing a lot of evaluations around how you're performing right now in prod or in your, in your beta product. But then once you understand how you're improving right now, you can actually make informed decisions about what needs to get better, right? If you have a RAG application that is doing cosine similarities between the query and the vector store, you want to ensure that you're improving your NR1 score so that you can have a better actual context retrieval than you did before, right? So, but really visualizing that and understanding how it's doing now versus a baseline, it's hard. So we provide ways in order for you to do these evaluations offline with new models, with changes, in order for you to be able to be sure that you're actually improving against that metric. For example, in RAG, context retrieval, but in agents, potentially tool calling, right? Like, am I calling my tools in an efficient manner? Am I actually ensuring that the right parameters are being passed with the right context, right? Then, okay. So I did videos because I like reliability and reproducibility of things. Here you can see an actual short view around the online tracing that we provide in weights and biases. We actually obtain tracing specifically of all the conversation that's happening between your model, and we give you inputs and outputs that are happening, right? So the input being the user query or the system query, and the output being what the actual GenAI-powered application has. Amongst that, we also do code saving to ensure that you understand. Let me see if I can replay that. Hell yeah. To make sure that you understand exactly at what point in time in your code you're actually generating this trace, so you understand why the output came the way that it came. Not pictured here is a lot of our governance, but if you go through our tracing screen, you can actually keep track of all the tokens that you're sending to the third-party base model provider. You can keep track of the cost that is costing you in order to provide this generation, and you can also keep track of the latency that it's taking for you to generate this prediction, right? So we have a governance suite of tools in order for you to understand what that base model or even base framework provider is giving you. Because we are a composable company that likes to integrate with all of the amazing companies that are out there, we actually provide deep integrations with the most popular libraries and providers out there. We integrate with OpenAI, with Mistral, with LangChain, right? In order for you to be able to just plug and play this observability platform so that you can start doing iterations rather than figuring out how to get value from it. And then this is how our evaluations look. We actually run your models against a known data set built upon the tracing that we've collected. And that tracing can be associated with feedback, whether that is from the user or from human-in-the-loop experts that your company has, right? And through these evaluations, we provide you with metrics that actually allow you to understand how you are doing, bless you, that actually allow you to understand how you're doing. And through that, you're actually able to see through your iterations how much better you're getting. Once you have multiple evaluations, we allow you to do comparisons. Graphically, you'll be able to understand the model, how well it's doing against your scoring, as well as comparing them against other model iterations, so you know which one is doing better. Something that we see very often in the current usage is that people are comparing the providers out there. Hey, is GPT-4o actually the best option for me, or many GPT-4o mini is better. Maybe Cloud 3 Haiku is better. What are the trade-offs between cost and accuracy that I'm willing to make in order to get the ROI that my company needs? So we believe that the best way to compare all of these things is, one, visually, because we're very visual people, but also on a side-by-side manner in metrics, as well as textual output. So the models will actually output different ways in which they answer to the data set, and we will compare them side by side. Using these, you can actually utilize libraries available out there. Specifically for the demo that I'm showing you guys, I use AutoTune to auto-tune the prompt context that you're passing to the system in order to do better in your evaluations. That's kind of like the automated part part of this all, right? So there are libraries out there that you can actually take these evaluations, its associated metrics, and see where you actually did wrong on them, right? So you can actually provide a goal to your prompt into saying, hey, generate a better prompt that is more accurate, or that is more, that has less hallucination, that is more correct along a certain vertical. And that way you can actually iterate faster and more confidently into a production application. I think that I'm out of time, so I think that I actually timed this pretty well. Let's stay in touch. We'd love to talk more about GenAI applications. And thank you guys so much for coming by for the conversation.